We the people want answers. We the people are sick of this shit.
My videos don't necessarily promote one religion. My views and opinions aren't meant to change the minds, opinions, or beliefs of others. Watch with an open mind. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, entertainment, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All rights and credit go directly to its rightful owners. No copyright infringement is intended. We continue to uncover the profound wisdom within the timeless scriptures. Take care, and God bless.
Hey there, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to look at Article 1, Section 6 through 10 of the U.S. Constitution, so the last section of Article 1. First, let me remind you that Article 1 of the Constitution establishes the legislative branch of the federal government, and the primary duty of this branch is to make laws. So as we look at these sections, consider how each one contributes to making Congress, the legislative branch, more effective. And don't forget, if you want review packet study guides and all sorts of other helpful tools to get an A in your class and a 5 on your exam in May, then click right here and grab one of those bad boys. I also have a link down below in the description. Okay, so let's get to it. Article 1, Section 6 is divided into two parts, so let's look at Part 1 first. Senators and representatives shall receive compensation for their services determined by law and paid from the United States Treasury. Except in cases of treason, felony, or breach of the peace, they shall be immune from arrest while attending sessions of their respective houses, as well as when traveling to and from them, and for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned elsewhere. So here are some key things to know about this section. First, members of Congress are paid a salary for their work, and that salary is set by law. Second, they also receive certain benefits and privileges, including immunity from arrest except in cases involving treason, felony, or breach of the peace. And third, they cannot be punished or even questioned in any other court for any speech that they make on the floor of either house. This ensures that members of Congress can speak freely and without fear of reprisal. That means that the government can't censor what they say or punish them for saying something that someone else doesn't like. But of course, there are limits to this immunity. If a member of Congress commits a serious crime, they can be arrested just like anyone else. And now let's finish looking at Section 6. No senator or representative shall, during the term for which he or she was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the United States that was created or had its emoluments increased during that term, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house while continuing in office. This section prevents members of Congress from benefiting too much from their position, and it prevents them from being influenced by the president in deciding how to vote. It would be pretty unethical for a senator or representative to be appointed to a well-paying office just because he or she is a member of Congress, and it would also be undemocratic for the president to appoint people to influential positions just because they will vote the way the president wants them to vote. Okay? Now let's move on to Section 7. All bills for raising revenue must originate in the House of Representatives. However, the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as with other bills. Every bill passed by both the House and Senate must be presented to the President before becoming law. If he approves, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it with objections to the originating House, which shall record the objections and reconsider the bill. If 2/3 of that House agree to pass it, the bill in objection shall be sent to the other House for reconsideration, and if approved by 2/3, there it shall become law. In all such cases, votes in both houses shall be recorded by yeas and nays, with names entered in the journals. If the President does not return a bill within 10 days, excluding Sundays after presentation, it shall become law as if signed, unless Congress adjourns to prevent its return, in which case it shall not become law. Every order, resolution, or vote requiring concurrence of both houses, except on adjournment, shall be presented to the President. Before taking effect, it must be approved by him, or if disapproved, must be repassed by 2/3 of both houses, according to the rules for bills. Now that was a lot to read, and it's actually a lot more complex than it seems. So here's what you need to know. First, Section 7 describes the process for passing a bill through Congress and getting it to the President. Second, it explains what happens when the President receives a bill. He can sign it and approve it, or he can veto it and send it back to Congress. If he vetoes it, Congress can override the veto with a 2/3 vote in each chamber, and the bill becomes a law even without the President's signature. Third, the section outlines the process for overriding a presidential veto. This process requires a supermajority vote in both chambers of Congress. And fourth, the section requires that all votes in both houses be recorded so that everyone can see exactly how each member voted on every issue. So why is this so important? Well, this process helps to ensure that the legislative process is transparent and accountable to the people. By requiring that all votes be recorded, the public can see how their elected officials are voting and hold them accountable. Additionally, the process of passing a bill through Congress is designed to ensure that bills are thoroughly considered before becoming law. Each chamber has the opportunity to amend and improve bills before they are passed, and the President has the opportunity to veto bills that he believes are not in the best interest of the nation. Of course, this is just a brief overview of a very complex topic, and if you want to learn more about the legislative process, I encourage you to do some additional research. All right, moving on to Section 8. Section 8 gives Congress the power to do 14 different things, and all these powers are described in the subsections. So, instead of trying to describe each one individually, I'm just going to list them out for you. Congress has the power to 1. Lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay debts, and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States with all duties, imposts, and excises uniform throughout the United States. 2. To borrow money on the credit of the United States. 3. To regulate commerce with foreign nations. 4. To regulate commerce among the several states and with the Indian tribes. 5. Establish uniform rules of naturalization and uniform bankruptcy laws throughout the United States. 6. Coin money, regulate its value and that of foreign coin and fix standard of weights and measures. 7. Provide punishment for counterfeiting securities and current coin. 8. Establish post offices and post roads. 9. Promote the science and useful arts by securing to authors and inventors for limited times to property in their writings and discoveries. 10. Constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. 11. Define and punish piracy, felonies on the high seas, and offenses against international law. 12. Declare war. 13. Grant letters of marque and reprisal, and 14. Make rules concerning captures on land and water. Congress also has the power to raise and support armies with appropriations limited to 2 years, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for governing land and naval forces, to call forth the militia to enforce laws, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Congress also has the power to organize, arm, discipline, and govern the militia and those employed in the service, reserving to the states the appointment of officers and the training to the discipline prescribed by Congress. And finally, Congress has the power to exercise exclusive legislation over a district up to 10 miles square, which shall be hereafter ceded by states and accepted by Congress as the seat of government, and over places purchased with state legislature consent for forts, arsenals, dockyards, and other necessary buildings, and to make all laws necessary and proper for executing these powers and all others vested by the Constitution in the government or its officers. Okay, so you might have noticed that most of these powers are related to taxation, borrowing money, and trade. These are all important functions of government, and they allow Congress to raise revenue to pay for the government's operations and to regulate the economy. For example, the power to tax allows the government to generate revenue to fund its operations and to pay for public services such as national defense and infrastructure. The power to borrow money allows the government to finance large projects or to respond to emergencies such as wars or natural disasters. And the power to regulate commerce allows the government to promote economic growth and to protect consumers and businesses. Okay, we're almost there. We just have 2 more sections. Section 9 begins with a bunch of negative powers, that is, things that Congress is forbidden from doing. And then it ends with some positive powers, that is, things that Congress is allowed to do. So let's start with the negative powers. Migration or importation of persons any existing state permits shall not be prohibited by Congress before 1808, but a tax up to $10 per person may be imposed. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended except in cases of rebellion or invasion, when public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given by commerce or revenue regulations to ports of one state over another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury except by appropriations made by law, and regular statements of receipts and expenditures shall be published. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no office holder shall accept any present, emolument, office, or title of any king, prince, or foreign state without the consent of Congress. Okay. Now let's look at the positive powers granted to Congress in Section 9. Congress has the power to provide for calling a convention to amend the Constitution when requested by 2/3 of the states. Congress also has the power to appoint committees and to establish rules for their management and to punish disorderly conduct in its chambers and to expel members. All right, we're in the home stretch. We only have 1 more section to go. Let's take a look at it. Section 10. No state without the consent of the United States shall send any embassy to or receive any embassy from or enter into any conference, agreement, alliance, or treaty with any king, prince, or state. No state shall make war unless actually invaded or in imminent danger, and then only until the United States shall be at peace with all powers at war with that state. No state shall adopt offensive measures unless 4 states at least join in that measure. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty on articles exported from or imported into the United States, or any duty on the tonnage of vessels in port or harbor, or for bringing goods into port or harbor or warehouse, or on any goods in store or warehouse, or shall impose any such duty so as to make the same higher or lower than those of the most favored nation. No state shall tax or otherwise burden interstate or foreign commerce, nor shall a state ever lay a duty on personal property brought into the state for use or consumption. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, establish a post office or post roads. All right. That's what you need to know about Article 1, Sections 6 through 10 of the U.S. Constitution. Click right here to keep reviewing for the AP Government Test. And I've got videos on all the other parts of the Constitution right here. If you've got questions about this, leave them in the comments and I'll catch you on the flip-flop. Signing out.
Thank you all for watching this here video.